Hi, I'm Brenna Huntley. I'm a human service counselor and an anti-diet advocate. And today I'm sharing with you history of diet culture and modern diet culture as a part of our YCAN staff cohort. So I'm just going to get started here. So I'm just going to give a bit of a content warning. There's mentions of eating disorders, fat phobia, racism, and ableism. Please keep discussions respectful and appropriate, and the chat is open for questions or comments. History of diet culture is what we're going to start with. So in recorded history, 81% of human societies have had beauty ideals that favored larger bodied women. And so historically, this was mainly because getting enough food was the main concern. So being in a fat body signified prosperity, well-being, having access to food. It signified a higher social status and a better chance of weathering famine and disease and a greater likelihood of fertility, whereas thinness historically represented poverty, illness, weakness, death. Little access to food, potentially being overworked. That's kind of what that different body type represented at the time. So here are some depictions of fat bodies. And if you notice in these sculptures here, and note the date that they were potentially created as well, but their reproductive organs are the main focus here. Like they don't have faces or really like a lot of details on their limbs. So yeah, the focus is really on their bellies and their other body parts. So ancient Greece, this is kind of where we got the seeds of modern diet culture, because in their society, they valued moderation and balance. Food was for fuel, not really for pleasure. Fatness was viewed as a symbol of moral corruption, like gluttony. And then we got the root word for diet from the Greeks as well. And then physicians used it in medical texts, used the word diet, and it referred to drinking, eating, exercise, and hygiene habits at the time. And doctors said anyone who didn't follow this regimen were considered intellectually and morally inferior. So they kind of thought that overconsumption of something basically made you a bad person or made you unhealthy. And that's kind of where we first started to see that. But however, in this time period, they valued fat in moderation. So it's, they didn't have like a super ideal thin body like we have today, but that's still a little bit less restricting than the expectations for women's bodies today, or people's bodies in general. Has anyone ever told you you are what you eat? This is a rhetorical question. So we're going to move into colonization of the Americas now. So Christopher Columbus and his crew believed that they needed to eat the right European food in order to avoid illness, because of course, when they traveled overseas to the Americas, a lot of crew and indigenous people got sick, of course. So they started to wonder if it was their food, if it was the food in the Americas, or so they believed that if they ate the right food from Europe, the food that they were used to, that it would help them avoid illness, which of course was not accurate. But colonizers believed that their bodies looked different from indigenous peoples because they ate different foods. So this is kind of where you are what you eat comes into play. They literally believed that if they were to eat foods that were native to the Americas, that they would literally transform to look like those people. Yeah, which is my next point. So yeah, they believe that they would look like the people they were colonizing if they ate the bad local food. So, and then we move into the American Industrial Revolution. So we got like big factories now, clothing was now being produced in these factories at mass produced sizes. So you had to basically choose from small, medium, large, whereas previously you had to go to seamstress. That was the only place that you could get your clothing. So all your clothing was probably custom made to you. So now, we had stores and everything like that where you could buy your clothes. And then thinness became associated with white people, men, aristocrats, more evolved individuals. And then we also saw the boom of coin-operated scales in public places. So in the anti-diet book that I read, it said that there was coin-operated scales everywhere, like at the movie theater, in like the most random places, because of like the penny scales and stuff like that, they generated an income, right? So that was what was appealing. But they also kind of fueled like an obsession with people checking their weight. So that was pretty damaging. And so we're going to backtrack a little bit, and this is the first diet book. So William Banting published Letter on Corpulence addressed to the public. It outlined the diet his doctor prescribed him to overcome his weight struggles. It's sold out and reprinted multiple times in Europe and the US. So this is, if you go on Amazon, you search for this book, this is the actual book cover that comes up on Amazon. So yeah, there's a depiction of a very large man, and it's basically a diet book. And this is kind of when diets left the medical territory and moved into self-help, because it was no longer like a conversation between you and your physician. It was like kind of based on your willpower, because he thought that in this book, like he was giving people the tools to do it themselves. And that's why it moved into a self-power, self-help kind of vibe. So in the 1920s and on, this is kind of when diet culture really took off. So during the First World War, food rationing and willpower were really big, of course, because during the war, they had limited access to food and they had to ration it. So if you were in a fat body, people could assume that you didn't have the willpower and that you were maybe even potentially hurting the war effort. So that's a pretty big stigma to live under. But cigarette smoking and fasting to maintain weight became really popular. Gyms started popping up everywhere. Diet pills like speed were very popular. And then in the 50s, we got like the boom of televised exercise classes. In 1960 and 1961, we got Overeaters Anonymous and Weight Watchers. So Weight Watchers has been one of those that's been around for a long time. And then this is the 1970s and on. So in 1972, Robert Atkins published Dr. Atkins' Diet Revolution. So that's still talked about a lot today. In 1994, nutritional information was required on food packaging. So now people could, have more access to like counting calories, whereas previously they might not have. And then in the mid 1990s, 44% of women and 29% of men reported that they were trying to lose weight. So modern diet culture, what does diet culture look like today? I remember seeing this ad on social media years ago, but like the top one, I remember seeing it on Facebook and thinking like, wow, because people were sharing it, and there was honestly there was quite a response to that one. I would say like quite a lot of backlash. It was like this top ad was like seen on a bus advertisement, and then some people came out with a response to that. So that's the one on the bottom where it says we're Beachbody ready already. Like we don't need the weight loss collection, whatever from Protein World that they're trying to market. We're already ready for the beach. That's kind of the message that the bottom one is showing. So other ways that diet culture can look today is complimenting on someone's weight loss, talking about diets, detoxes, cutting carbs, good and bad foods, using exercise as a punishment for eating, presence of diets on social media, before and after photos, social media platforms promoting thin white women first, and public ads for weight loss. So things like before and after photos can be kind of damaging, because I remember when I was like really deep in like trying to lose weight, and I took so many before photos that, you know, never had an after. And seeing before and after photos made me like think that if I looked like the before, that like that wasn't worthy enough. Like I would compare myself to the before, obviously, and the fact that I would oftentimes look like the before, and how that someone felt like, you know, people also associate it with like saying that they were miserable when they weighed that much, and all this stuff too. But you know, losing the weight isn't always a fix. What are the consequences of diet culture? So diet culture suggests that people are better, have higher morals, or are more worthy in a thin body. Diet culture creates thin privilege for jobs, benefits, accommodation, and comfort. So accommodation including like plane seats, and even like waiting room seats that could be small, or even like, you know, if you get a job and then like your desk chair is small, like that would all be things that contribute to thin privilege. Diet culture suggests movement be for prevention or punishment of fatness, as opposed to, you know, moving your body because you feel better mentally after, because, you know, you feel stronger, but it's kind of used as like a tool for like if you ate too much sometimes, like, or if, you know, you gotta get summer body ready, right? Like it's using movement and like exercise as like a way to like make yourself smaller. And then diet culture views fat people as less valuable and more expendable. Diet culture suggests fitness and illness are intrinsically tied. Like if you were to go to the doctor and you had an issue that might not have been related to your weight at all, and the doctor is just like completely focused on your weight and like just saying that you need to lose weight, you need to diet, as opposed to like really looking at some of your symptoms and some other potential problems that could be going on, like focusing first on the weight as opposed to like really looking at what a potential illness could be. And then diet culture contributes heavily to eating disorder behaviors, and we know that that's like especially harmful for young people to grow up in that kind of world and to think those things, and to have those kind of relationships with food and exercise is damaging. And here's some of my references. I got a lot of information, like a lot from Christy Harrison's book, Anti-Diet. So that's a really good one to check out. But yeah, that's about it.